Halley lived in an old house located in Melrose Park, Illinois. This house had been built in the 1900s and stood strong even until today. Never knowing the previous house owner, she liked to think of stories that happened within the brick walls, one of which she had so detailed she began to dream of it constantly. One night she lay down for bed, ready for the night's rest. The breeze blowing in from her slightly open window was enough to put her right to sleep, slipping right into the dream of the previous owners. A 3-person family living there. Mother, father, and daughter were all accounted for. They usually had fun playing a board game, which somehow led to the father reading a newspaper. There he would decide that he had found a better house. Then they'd pack up and move without a care. Usually. This night, however, things became skewed. The walls of the house were covered in a filth that could only be described as chalky. The ceiling was non-existent, seemingly being replaced by an endless black void. The presence of someone observing hung overhead heavily. That's when she noticed that she was actually in the house this time, not actually watching from a third-person perspective. She hadn't seen the family, though. They were nowhere to be found. Halley began to wander through the house, noticing small changes that she hadn't seen at first glance, such as the dinner table in the kitchen was stripped of all its decorative pieces, such as the flower vase, tablecloth, and even the chairs were missing. Just an empty, dark wooden table remained with an ominous light shining down from somewhere off in the darkness above. She made her way into the back living room, taking only baby steps at a time. A TV filled with color bars was on, facing a couch with no occupants. She took notice of the back door, a door that led from where she was past the first floor and into the basement. Even in the real life, the spiral staircase was enough to send shivers down her spine, but this was on a whole other level. The door stood straight across from her, not 10 feet. She looks at the couch again and sees an imprint of someone who was sitting there. The door shakes for a moment, only long enough for her to break her gaze from the couch. Her eyes fixate themselves on the knob. Taking a few steps back, not breaking eye contact, she reaches the threshold of the room. She pans her eyes to the couch again and realized the imprint was now gone. I need it! An unsettling scream emits from behind the door. Halley turns to run as the door swings open. She can hear the sounds of heavy dragging footsteps ascending the stairs, becoming louder as they near the top. She makes it back into the kitchen where she's greeted by the mother and father sitting at the table. The sight is enough to throw Halley off, causing her to stop in fright. She stares at them. They notice her and move their gaze to match hers. Black ooze drips from their eyes, pupils sliced vertically. Before she had time to react, they asked in a saddened, morbid tone,
"Where did the light go? Where did the light go?"
Halley screamed at the top of her lungs and ran to the next door, swung it open, and wildly ran through it. Halley awoke on the couch in the living room, sun shining through, and the TV was on, playing some cartoon show. She sat up in a panic, nearly sweating. She called out for her mom. When she got no reply, she called out for her dad. Still, no one called out to her or came to her. She gripped the blanket and tried to remain calm. Even though everything was lit up and clearly visible, she still felt very uneasy. She reached for the remote and heard a thud, a very loud thud that seemed to be far away. She ignored it and flipped it to a different channel. The thud got louder and sounded considerably closer than before. She stopped to listen. The sound was coming up the stairs from behind her. The door was still shut. She instinctively jumped off the couch and ran to the door and locked the hook that was on the door. She ran to the front part of the house and hid in her parents' bedroom. She heard the thud on the door now. Whatever it was wanting in. Halley hid inside the stand-up closet and held the door shut tight, whimpering to herself that she was still asleep. For what seemed like forever had passed in only a few short minutes. The closet was parallel to the bedroom door, giving Halley a perfect view of her escape route. The bedroom door opens and someone steps inside. She covers her mouth to muffle her breathing. A dark shadow flies across the room and rips the door closet open. Halley shrieks and begins to flail in a panic. "Honey, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay." Halley looks up to find her mom standing there, holding her. It took a moment for her to register that it was actually her. Halley takes a while to calm down, but when she does, she tries her best to explain to her mom what had just happened. Being the calming woman that she was, her mom explains that it was all just a dream, and that sometimes you can still be dreaming for a little bit after you wake up, trying to reassure Halley. Her mom told her that if she feels it necessary, that she should say a little prayer. Halley listened and tried to calm down a little bit before going back to her own room. On her way down the hall, she walked with her mom. As she turned into the room, she noticed the hook lock on the door was up. Halley paused for a moment before her mother called for her attention. Halley sat on the bed as her mom told her a prayer and said, "He'll listen." Halley closed her eyes and folded her hands, praying to never have such dreams again. She was about to unfold her hands when she simply looked up to find the black emptiness void still above her. It had been above her this whole time, and it remained unnoticed. A shroud of horrible screams and cries of agony reigned over her as she sat there. Out of the corner of her eye, she had seen her mother still standing in the doorway, giving an insidious smile, looking back over her shoulder just before she closes the door. Halley will hear the last thing that she ever hears.
You think of us